Here's version 2, guys, of the quiz so that you can do your quiz corrections. So in number 1, we want to solve for r, so that means that I need to get rid of the negative 8. The opposite of subtracting is to add. So I'm adding 8 to both sides of my equation. The negative 8 and positive 8 cancel out, so I'm left with r equals, because I bring down the equal sign, 15. And that's my solution for number 1. In question 2, I need to solve for variable x. So the opposite of subtracting by 3 is to add by 3. So I add by 3 to both sides of my equation because I want to get the x alone on the right side. Bring down your equal sign, and this time negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. I subtract the numbers because they have different signs. So 10 minus 3 is 7, and I keep the negative because 10 is bigger than 3 and 10 is negative. Now, I do want to rewrite my answer so that the x is first, so I just rewrite it where x is first and then write equals negative 7. Question 3, we're solving by doing the inverse. So the inverse of dividing by 6 is to multiply by 6, since I want to get the a value alone. So again, the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So these 6 cancel out, and I'm left with a equals negative 36. A positive times a negative is a negative. That's why the answer is negative. Same thing in question 4. So in question 4, I have 2 equals n divided by 4. The opposite of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4. So these 4's cancel out because if I were to multiply them, I'd end up getting 4 divided by 4, which is 1. So that's why they cancel out. So I'm left with n, and 4 times 2 is 8. Or you can write it as n equal to 8. That's 4. Number 5 is over here. In question 5, on the right-hand side of your equal sign, you're going to notice that both of these have a k. So that means I can combine them. These are combining like terms because they're on the same side of the equation, aka equal sign. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1, and I rewrite the variable k. Equal to, so I bring this down, negative 6. Well, now I want to get rid of the negative 1 in front of the k, so the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So this is the reason why I divide by negative 1. So the negative 1's cancel each other out because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. So now I'm left with positive 1k equal to positive 6 because a negative divided by a negative is equal to a positive. And of course, I want to rewrite this with the k in the front. Okay? Number 6. Don't forget, you can pause the video. On the right side, I'm going to combine like terms again. Both of these have a r. So because they both have an r and they're on the same side of the equal sign, I can combine them. So negative 2 plus 6 will give me positive 4r. They have different signs, negative, positive, so I subtract 6 and 2, and that gives me 4. My sign stays positive because 6 is bigger than 2, and 6 is positive. I bring down the equal sign, and I bring down the negative 4. Now 4r means 4 times r, so the opposite is to divide by 4. So 4 divided by 4 cancel out to 1, so now I have 1r. And negative 4 divided by positive 4 is equal to negative 1. A positive divided by a negative, or a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And I can rewrite this as just r equals negative 1. Question 7, I'm required to first combine like terms on the left. Now, do you notice, are these even like terms? He doesn't have an x, he does. Are they like terms? The answer to that question is no. So I'm not going to box it. But I tried to combine them, but I can't. So now I'm going to look at the right. If I look at the right side, we do notice that we have distributive property. So negative 2 distributed to 1 just means negative 2 times 1, which is negative 2. Then I have to distribute negative 2 again to the positive 8x. So negative 2 times 8x. is going to give me a minus 16x. Bring down the minus 8 and the rest. So I'm just bringing it down. Negative 24 minus 2x. So whatever's in pink is what I already had and I just brought down. So now you're going to notice that on the right hand side, I do have like terms. And those like terms are the ones that don't have an x. This guy doesn't have an x. This guy does. They're not like terms. This guy doesn't have an x. This guy doesn't either. So that means I'm going to combine these two because these are like terms. So negative 2 minus 8, they're on the same side of the equal sign. So I'm just going to combine them. Negative 2 minus 8 are both negative, so I'm going to add them and keep the sign. That's how I get negative 10. Because 2 plus 8 is 10, and because they're both negative, I keep the negative. Now you're going to notice you have x's on both sides of your equation, so I want to move the smallest x. The smallest x is the one that's the bigger negative value because they are farthest away from 0. So the farther you are from 0, the smaller you are. So that means that negative 16x is smaller. So I'm going to do the opposite, which is to add. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add this to both sides of my equation. So the 16x cancels out with the negative 16x. So I'm left with negative 24 plus 14x because 16x minus 2x right here will simplify to 14x equal to negative 10. Now I'm going to add 24 to both sides of my equation because I want to get the x by himself. So this guy's the only one that has an x. I want to get him alone. So I got to get rid of the negative 24. Negative 24 plus 24 cancel out. So I'm left with 14x, bring down your equal sign, equals 14. Now this part here is positive because since 24 is positive and 10 is negative, they have different signs. I'm going to subtract them. And because 14 is bigger, I keep his sign, which is positive, except I don't have to write the positive sign in front of him. The 14 here is in front of the x, so now I'm going to divide by 14 because the opposite of multiplication is division. So when I divide both sides by 14, 14 divided by 14 is 1, so I left with 1x. And again, 14 divided by 14 on the right is just 1. There's 7. Number 8. I have to use distributive property. So my first step is to distribute 2 to the 4n, which will give me 8n. Then I have to distribute 2 again, but this time to the positive 7. So 2 times 7 is positive 14. Then I rewrite in blue the rest. So everything else that I have, I'm going to rewrite. Now on the left side of my equal sign, you're going to notice that you have more than 2 terms and you have some like terms. Well, this guy has an n. Does anybody else in here have an n? No. So 8n doesn't have any like terms. I'm just going to rewrite him. But you are going to notice that the 14 and the 4 are like terms. They don't have a variable n. So I can combine these. And what's 14 plus 4? That answer would be 18. Now I'm going to rewrite everything else after the equal sign. I have 8n on both sides of my equal sign, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Doesn't matter which one I get rid of, but I want to get rid of this one. So the opposite of 8n is minus 8n. And when I do the opposite, these guys are going to cancel out. And I'm left with 18 on the left side equals 12. Now, is this true? Does 18 equal 12? No, it doesn't. That's why I put a slash in the equal sign. So this would be no solution, no solution. Number 9, you're going to use distributive property again. Negative 2 times negative 2k is equal to a positive 4k because a negative times a negative is a positive. Then I have negative 2 times positive 3. That'll give you negative 6. On the right hand side, I'm going to rewrite the negative 5k plus 3 times 5k minus 6. But we have to use distributive property to distribute this guy. So I'm going to get 3 times 5k, which is equal to 15k, and 3 times negative 6, which is equal to negative 18. I'm going to bring everything else down that I'm underlining in blue because they're not changing. So bring them down. Now the 15k is actually positive, so I need to put a plus sign there. On the left side, you're going to notice that you cannot combine like terms because this guy doesn't have a k and he does. So you can't combine them. But you are going to notice that these two terms both have a variable k. That means I can combine them too, but I can't combine him. So I'm going to combine like terms, which are just the negative 5k and the 15k, which give me 10k because negative 5k plus 15k is just 10. Bring down the minus 18. Now I'm going to move the smaller k to the other side of the equal sign, which is a 4k. So the opposite of plus is minus. 4k minus 4k cancel out, so I'm going to bring down the negative 6. 10k minus 4k is equal to 6k, and I'm going to bring down the negative 18. Now I'm going to add 18 to both sides of my equal sign, and when I add 18 to both sides, because I want to get the k by himself, I'm going to end up getting 12 equals 6k, because 18 minus 6 is a positive 12. That's why I wrote 12. 6k means 6 times, so I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And when I divide 12 by 6, I'm going to get 2. And when I divide 6k by 6, you're going to notice that the 6 divided by 6 will just give you 1, so 1k or just k. So your answer would be k equals 2. And the last question, number 10, we're going to use distributive property twice. Once to distribute by the negative 5, so negative 5 times negative 2n, and then negative 5 again times negative 7. And this is going to give me 10n plus 35. Because negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times 2 is 10. Rewrite the n. Negative 5 times negative 7 is positive 35. Equals, now on the right side, I'm going to distribute the 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And last here, 3 times 4n, positive, is positive 12n. 3 times 4 is 12. So now I have to solve for n. Which n is smallest? I have a 10n, and on the other side of my equal sign, I have a 12n. Who am I going to move? Well, I'm going to move the 10n because he's smaller than the 12n. So I'm going to do the opposite of 10, which is to subtract. So 10n minus 10n cancel out, and I'm left with 35 equals 9 plus 2n, because 12 minus 10n is 2n. Now I'm going to solve for n by getting rid of the number next to the guy with the n, which is 9. So the opposite of 9 is to subtract 9, and when you subtract 9 to 35, you're going to end up getting 26, yes, equal to 2n, because 9 minus 9 cancels out. 2 is in front of the n, so that means I have to get rid of the 2 by doing the opposite. The opposite of multiplication is division. So now when I divide both sides by 2, I'm going to get 13 is equal to n, or n equals 13. That concludes version number 2. Hope this helps.